Okay, everything's live and we're being recorded.
Wonderful. So,
Oh, you're having trouble getting in? Okay, all right, well, okay. All right, I'll tell them you're waiting. Okay. Mhm.
I'll log in any second now.
Okay, yep.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cecil's having trouble getting in. He said his Zoom isn't cooperating, but he'll be with us shortly.
Okay, so we should get started, and we have Jimmy DiCecco, our I don't know how you say it, our main architect for our building, and he's now has his own company, and we hired him to fix the Westinghouse rack, and Jimmy will give us a presentation. I think it's more like talking about scope. We won't see any grand plan today, but yeah, Jimmy, you have the floor.
Sure. May I try to share a screen?
I think it's going to work now, I think, Jimmy. Go ahead.
Okay.
You getting it?
Yeah, open system preferences. 1 second. Let me know if you can start to see things.
No.
How about now?
Yes, you started. Yes, there you go. You're good.
All right. What I've begun to do is to assemble, my proposal was based in 2 phases. One was documenting existing conditions, and then we would have a discussion like this that talks about what the proposed scope may be, and what construction documents to fulfill that scope would look like. So I have the site plan that I received from the borough, and this works to a large degree. It's not exactly current in that, I'm not sure, can you see my cursor at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, I can see it.
So there's a large planting area here that isn't represented in this site plan, but you see these sort of wavy lines. This was an engineer's survey that begins to represent these trees, and this is a tree that is in discussion about possibly being removed if they want to install some sort of band shelter in this area here. But what this preliminary drawing represents is, if this is Barclay Avenue at the bottom, you drive back the access road, and then this is the Westinghouse Lodge, showing stairs at each corner, the ramp, and the entry and main space. This represents the first floor plan, so it's just an enlarged version of what you just saw, where you come in and there's this little ante-room off to the side, a set of stairs, men's and women's room. This is the main space with the chimney in the middle, the kitchen, office, and mechanical room. And then this space is really the area under cover, which each of these rectangles represents a column that's there. What's in red is the roof structure above. The basement floor plan, if you come back, the existing access road down this ramp. And the last time I was there, they were doing some work there, so I didn't get a chance to look and see how far they got. But as you come in, there are 3 rooms in the back. There's a large area where lawnmowers and lawn equipment is being stored. You come into this main room. This is the underneath the existing fireplace. Mechanical, electrical room back here. There's an outdated abandoned toilet room here, and then stairs that go upstairs, and then this room that has some drainage issues that they were solving. The roof plan. So you see that the area I'm outlining is the original Westinghouse Lodge with a sloped gabled roof. And then this larger square represents the flat roof, rubber roof that was put on, I'm guessing in the 60s, 50s or 60s. And mechanical units, each of these squares represents an existing skylight, and each of the circles represents a roof penetration. I've drawn the existing, I'll call this the front elevation. So when you're facing Barclay, you come up, that's your main entrance. All this metal railing is existing. This is this type of roof is called a mansard roof, but it's basically those cedar shingles that are in this gray area. And then you can see behind what was the original sloped roof from the lodge. And I've drawn that at a larger scale with a floor plan below. And then you have front and rear, side and side elevations. And the trees that are here are, at least at this point right now, not 100% accurate with height and location, but I'm just trying to show that it's in a wooded area. And then I have a detailed drawing of that mansard roof, because this became, my understanding initially was that the borough wanted to do something with this, and A, maybe repair it, or B, replace it or change the look of it. And then the next series of slides are a series of photos. So this just represents the work that we did on the borough building and the sign and say the word Forest Hills. This is a photograph of a photograph. So I took a photograph of one of the photographs in the lodge, and this is the sloped roof that you kind of see behind. And the next series of slides really represent areas of focus. So we have some areas outside. So this just represents things outside and maybe initial areas of focus. You see in this slide here, the metal railing is rusted away. So what I was trying to do was to begin to identify some immediate things. We may have to have some immediate repairs in order to make things safe. So, in order of priority, I would suggest that we identify anything that's a safety issue, move on to a usability or ADA usability issue, and then on to energy efficiency and aesthetics, maybe in order similar to that. But right now we have some safety issues with the railing. I'm not sure that any of these picnic tables are truly ADA accessible. And I think we have a couple of roof issues. Climbing up onto the roof, you see that there's shingles on the original and then a rubber roof. And these are mechanical systems that you see here in the photo to the left. In the next photo to the right, this is a roof penetration that has failed, and we're getting some water in. You see there's just some general maintenance where we have some roof penetrations and some debris up there. And then my understanding was that some of these skylights are starting to leak. And even though they're leaking onto an outdoor space, it's something that would want to be addressed. The black rubber roof up there is seemingly, I'm not sure when that was installed, but it looks like it's very much in need of repair, replacement. If we go inside, these are just some photos of the wood ceiling, the painted panelized walls. And I think one of the things we want to address first and foremost would be toilet rooms that meet current accessibility standards, which what we have right now as far as a men's and women's room do not. And then we have a really quite a wonderful basement once it becomes dry, and the ability to maybe use that. So this is a photo looking underneath the concrete landing, some of the work that's been done down in the basement so far, some of the the drawings and storage that's still there, and just an understanding of how we could clean it up and possibly use the basement. The last series of photographs are just some site where we know we have a nice canopy shelter for rental and the use of a barbecue grill area that I'm not sure how well it functions, but it definitely needs to be repaired or replaced. And then these are some simple sketches of the first floor plan. So right now, if you see my cursor, this is where you come into the main entrance. And right now there's a men's room and a women's room. And one of the challenges with retrofitting toilet rooms is just the degree with which they have to grow in size in order to have this circle that you see here and this circle that you see here represents a 5-foot diameter turning radius. So what I'm just suggesting in this pencil sketch is that possibly this room could be taken over for a unisex toilet room, so that when you came in, you could have an ADA compliant women's room with 2 stalls, 2 sinks, and the proper turning radius. And on the left side, possibly a unisex room with a sink and a toilet. And then we could possibly have access for able-bodied people to go downstairs and use the toilet rooms we could retrofit down in the basement. And this is just a larger version of that. But all I'm trying to do is kind of address some of the issues that I wanted to talk about and begin to understand scope. So that being said, I'll just kind of open it up for questions.
Thank you, Jimmy. I have one comment about the bathrooms. I actually like your idea with the using the basement, but you know, we also would be willing to give you that office, like on the top. If you go back to the one slide, like
This
the
office.
office, we don't need it as an office, so you could use that too. But I actually like to use that extra
That would be
space
great.
for something else, and we can use the basement, you know, depending money and all that stuff. But it would be definitely an option to use one, you know, put both bathrooms together, current bathrooms together, and use an office for another bathroom. That would be definitely an option.
Okay, I think
I
that's a
have
great
a
option.
comment on that.
Okay.
Remember, the basement will also, we're hoping to use for storage. Would we want storage and then the public, you know? I kind of like the idea of them both upstairs, but just throwing that in there.
Yeah, the other issue, that cabinet area, the storage area that you have indicated as a potential future bathroom, that's where we keep the extra chairs and tables. There will need to be some place to do that, whether we put those then into the office area or somewhere else. We do have to have a place for the furniture that is, you know, flexibly used in that main space. Because, you know,
Yeah.
sometimes they have chairs, sometimes they have chairs and tables, sometimes they have tables around the edges. And there needs to be a place to store all of those tables and chairs when they're not all in use.
Yeah, and that has to be on the
Absolutely.
first floor.
That has to be on the first floor, exactly.
Okay,
We can't take all of those rooms for bathrooms, is what I'm saying.
I had my hand up, but I'm just going to jump in here. I have a different approach here to asking the question. Is rather than trying to retrofit some of the rooms that we have, and it sounds like we're trying to do a salvage here. What about the idea of actually gutting this completely and rebuilding it? So from the ground up, is that a possibility? And what would that cost us versus trying to do what you're possibly suggesting?
well, I think that to answer that, it's definitely a possibility. It becomes a question of budget and sort of historical significance. So, you know, we would be able to potentially gut this and spend quite a bit of money and completely rebuild the Westinghouse Lodge. I think that, we lose a little bit of history if we do that. So that's sort of the first reaction I have. And I think that there's a possibility of spending less money and being able to retain some of the historical significance of this. It just really depends on the borough's budget for and goals here. So my understanding was that we wanted to make this safe, make it accessible, make it more usable. And if we can do that within the existing fabric, then great. And I'm just starting to explore that, just having finished sort of existing conditions. And
I think you answered Angelo's question, but Angelo can correct me.
Well,
It would be significantly cheaper to keep it, or? Jimmy,
I'm sorry, say that again, Marcus.
you said it would be cheaper, but would it be significantly cheaper keeping the existing building, or?
My gut reaction is yes. But this building presents a number of challenges. I mean, you have a building inside a building, and they both need some work. And we can always look at an option of totally demolishing what's on site and building a current Westinghouse Lodge in the same flavor of the borough building. I wasn't aware that that was a possibility, but yeah, I mean, if the budget allowed that, we could always look, and I can potentially give you an analysis of what a retrofit cost would be and what the challenges and benefits of that would be, and what just a complete new building would be. And as much as I want to be able to retain history, there are some challenges with this building and its layout, and a new building would solve a lot of those challenges. But
yeah, and what I'm thinking here is that from a historical perspective, that perspective has already been altered because there's a different roof on there.
Sure.
And a lot of other things that have been changed. And I was kind of thinking not necessarily, demolishing it totally would be not something I would suggest, but I was thinking about the building that was on Braddock and Ardmore Boulevard, how that was transformed, and that they actually came up with a really nice looking building after all was said and done. So
right.
Thinking along those lines.
Basically, you're
Well, I
saying
mean,
keeping the foundation and just redoing the top. Is that correct, Angelo?
Yes.
Okay.
That way you have an opportunity, if you wanted to put an elevator in there to make it more accessible, you could do that as well.
Those are all good options. It's really just dependent on sort of schedule and budget, I think.
Yes.
But if you're preserving the foundation, is that foundation sound at this point? I know we've been struggling with water penetrations, and we had a number of issues with repairing water coming through the walls and under the building. And I would want to be quite certain that we have a sound foundation. And I know that's something that will require some continued work.
Yeah, the foundation seems structurally sound. The borough has taken large steps in keeping it dry, in that your first defense of water is to keep water out. Water's not being kept out, it's coming in, so we're able to collect it and mitigate it that way. It's never the best, but it seems to be working. But I'm not able to give you a definitive 100% that all the issues have been solved and it's going to be dry for the foreseeable future. We want to be able to utilize that in the best way possible, and the first step in that is to keep it dry. The other areas I haven't really addressed is that this really doesn't meet current toilet room code or mechanical, electrical, and plumbing code. The units that are up on the roof are seemingly outdated. I haven't had a mechanical engineer take a look at this, but the current mechanical code requires fresh air coming into a building and exiting so that there's a constant circulation. This building doesn't have that, so there's going to be significant mechanical upgrades required if we go to that level. And again, it becomes a matter of budget and schedule.
Mhm.
Right, yeah, and that was my point. It seems to me that trying to, get these different elements in place would almost be more costly than actually building them from the ground up and doing the installation. So that was the reason for my question about that.
It's a very good question. It's a very good point. I think it requires a little bit more of an analysis to understand to what degree what elements do we retain and keep, and what elements do we demolish and replace. And Patty makes a good point in that we're spending quite a bit of money trying to keep the space dry, and how far back in time do we go in order to fix these things versus starting from scratch.
May I?
Yeah.
To add on to what Angela's point, one of the things I think to think about with all the money just to get it going again, get it up and running again. The actual usable space in the lodge is actually pretty small. It's chopped up with that fireplace. You have that area on the other side isn't terribly usable. And we have an enormous amount of deck space there that is, of course, not usable between around September and May. To tack on to what Angel was saying, could we at least look at maybe enclosing some of that deck space to get more usable space year round for the place? And just throwing that out there. That's all. No answer to it.
I mean, it's a very valid point. So that's just something to consider. Right now, you do have more deck space than you have.
Another point I think we discussed in the past was the roof. Essentially, we have three roofs. We have the siding thing, we have the asphalt, and we have the old roof. We would be willing to consider changing the whole roof to make it one roof. It's kind of like a little bit of a hybrid. We would rebuild the roof and keep the building. So we're not really like made to anything, basically.
Right. The only danger I see in that is it may be a good roof solution in taking, the original gabled roof, the black rubber roof, and the perimeter wood shingle roof, and making one roof out of them. To be honest, I struggle a bit with really how to make that look pleasant to anybody. Putting a giant roof over top of this, it's something we could explore. But it's very challenging. It's an addition on an addition on an addition. It just becomes challenging to kind of remedy that.
Maybe the roof should be the same type of material. Maybe the shape could be the same, but the material should be similar.
Potentially, yeah.
Pretty much, I think the only thing which we are kind of set, the usage of the lodge, how we do rentals, graduation parties, And what Jack said, maybe if you could use it more year round for business events, we could rent it out for that. So the usage is pretty much the same, what we like to do. But we really would like to upgrade it to, for the next 50 plus years, to have like a modern facility with, like that you can have a computer projector if you want to rent it out for a business meeting, that they can use that. And obviously, the band shell, so the band shell communication system needs to talk to the communication system of the lodge, things like that. And I think not everyone on council knows, like, you obviously doing the band shell as well, and we are willing to bid it together. So maybe the roof of the band shell should have the same type of roof like the lodge. I think it should look seamlessly together. So that's one of our goals.
No, I agree. I think that it would be wonderful if the municipal building, the lodge, and the band shell could all look like they're sisters or cousins of one another.
Yes.
And it's a great opportunity. It's just very challenging with what was the original lodge, and then this, giant flat roof deck that was put on there. It becomes a little bit challenging to kind of make that look like it is a cousin and not something foreign to that, but it's something that I'm willing to explore if you think you have the desire to do that.
And then another thing, what objective we have, we try to minimize our, like that thing is pretty much booked solid from May through, Walt, correct me if I'm wrong, at least end of August, maybe middle of September. So we would like to do the building if we can. Obviously, if you do a new build, I don't think you can do it, but restrict all the main activities from September through April. That would be like ideal. We shut it down in September and we open up at the end of April.
Just to touch base, just so you know, we're booked all the way through the end of September.
Okay, so we have beginning of May, so end of September. So pretty much we have October through April to do the renovation.
Yeah, I don't think we should let bookings interfere with renovation.
I know, but it's still revenue. It still adds to our cost. If
Yeah.
we can't, we should still consider it.
Just to touch base, these are contracts that are already in place, is what I'm quoting. So we are booked through the end of September with our last booking of any major event on, I believe it's October 2nd is the last event scheduled for the year at this point.
Yes. And Jimmy, once we know what we're doing, we are happy to, like what you said, obviously, if we decide we keep the building, we maybe can do the hand railing in its own little job, replace that independently from the building, if we decide to keep it.
Okay.
Like the urgent stuff, we can probably squeeze in.
Yeah, I mean, adding schedule to it just adds one other level of slight complexity that needs to be understood. I mean, if we were to maybe not this rental season, but if you had from November, December, January, February, March, April, that gives you 6 months over Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's to do something that's just not a lot of construction time. And I think that to be honest, I think that the potential level of construction that we're discussing either has to be phased over multiple years, or we have to look at losing an entire rental season in order to get that level of construction in. But again, that's just my first reaction to this. That's one of the things we have to look at as a possibility, and
that's
then
one thing
decide.
we have to. Yes, and that's one thing we just have to consider. I mean,
Right.
we did a major renovation of our Forest Hills swimming pool, and we shut that one down. And we would consider it if it's it has to be all make sense. So,
Exactly. Yeah,
and I think
I agree.
Walt, our rec director, I don't think, Walt, you're taking any bookings at the moment until after September. So at the moment, we are not booking anything after September. So-
At this point, anything that's in the calendar is in the calendar from October 2nd back, but anything post October 2nd, I am not taking any more bookings.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Reamer,
Yes,
what would we stand to lose if we were to give up a whole rental season?
I mean, I'd have to do analysis of that. I mean, obviously, I'm only on the job 6 weeks, but I'd have to look at, you're talking average rentals, probably $600, $500 to $600. And we're booked every Saturday, Sunday, from May all the way through the end of September, with multiple events mixed into there through the course of the week. Which the weekly stuff doesn't bring us a whole lot of money. But there are quite a few Fridays booked into that. But I mean, I can easily look through the calendar and calculate that and come up with an answer. I just don't have it for tonight.
I think it's
Mr.
our but Steve Morris maybe can help us with the budget. Our budget. I think it's like,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead, you know the number.
I thought it was about $30,000.
That's what I thought, $30,000-$40,000.
I'm just looking at the budget right now. We budgeted for the Forest Hills Westinghouse Lodge 40,000.
Yeah.
I think we've come close to that. It varies. It depends.
I mean, it's just for Jimmy something to consider that it's adding cost to it and inconvenience for our residents. But I mean, we have our pool lodge too. Some of the revenue will probably shift to the pool lodge, not all of it, of course.
Okay.
Last year we budgeted 40 also, and we took in 42,000 for the
Okay.
Forest Hills Westinghouse Lodge.
Well, I would propose that we just figure out what our next steps are and then come back to this.
Yeah. I
After
mean, Jimmy
Mr.
will give us
DePecker-
some,
Yeah.
like, when we did the main buildings, Jimmy will give us some options. We saw the Cadillac version of our building. We saw some cheaper versions. We kind of went with the middle. So he told us if you want to put the library on, it costs you whatever. I think it was $200,000-$300,000 extra.
125.
Yeah, but he will give us options. So, but Jimmy, did you get everything out? What tonight's meeting? What you wanted to get out? Do you have any questions to us?
Not at the moment, but I would like to be able to follow up with some emails and maybe make sure that I heard everything and plot a plan, moving forward. So thank you very much for the opportunity to work on this and present it to you. And I think it's always helpful to absorb some of this information and study what I've given you in this PDF. And if any questions or comments come up moving forward, my door is always open, and please let me know. And I will follow up with an email to the borough early next week.
Okay. And Steve Morse, would you please introduce Jimmy to Walt? I don't think they know each other yet. Walt is basically the future owner of that building in Packers.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Did you just introduce Walt to Jimmy, that they know each other?
All right. Thank you.
And Jimmy, do you have anything about the band shell? I know you realize FHCA is independent from us, but did you talk to them yet?
Yeah, I met with Mayor and I apologize. Her name is
Jackie
escaping me.
Dempsey.
Possibly.
Maureen. You met with Maureen and myself.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, I met with them, and I have some sketches, and it is shown on the plan here as a strong potential location for that. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about relative to the band shell is how do we maximize the usability and enjoyment of that? And two things come into the immediate discussion. One is this rather mature tree, and the second is the pavilion and the work and money that needs to be spent on the barbecue grill, and to find out what options there are there in order to repair or replace that in a different location. So it becomes a matter, again, of priorities and budget and schedule. So it's just one of the things that we want to talk about moving forward.
Okay. But those would be under our scope, not the bencher, not the Forest Hills CA. I think they just in brackets do the bencher. We would take care of the barbecue and the pavilion, I think. As far as I know. Is it correct?
I don't, that's my understanding, but right now my focus has been initially on the lodge itself, and I'm very pleased and happy to help you with the band shell, and then whatever we want to do with the pavilion in repairing it or moving it. So these just need to be addressed. I'll try to address them in my email here early next week.
Okay. Timing wise, let's say we decide to renovate that building or not just scratch it and build from scratch. Timing wise, what do you think would be feasible?
Well, it really depends. I mean, if we're looking at renovating it, you're several months to satisfy everybody's design requirements, and then another several months to do drawings and bid it. So I think that I can put together a couple of scenarios and a schedule for you when I get back to you in an email, and just say that if we were, option A would be to severely renovate it, and option B may be to do something from the ground up new, and put together some potential schedules for that. But I mean, in rough numbers, you're easily looking at close to a year in design and construction time.
Okay.
So we have to go ahead. I'm sorry.
While you're constructing your numbers, can you also give us some type of rough guesstimate on a multi-year project? So if we just do it in between the rental season.
Yeah, I can attempt to do that. And again, these things may rely on the amount of work to be done, because we could, what I'm trying to get at is that we could potentially, if we wanted to save this building and we wanted to go in there and renovate the toilet rooms so that you had current compliance with Americans with Disabilities Act, that's something you could do over the winter season, and you could gut and put in new toilet rooms, and then get back into the rental market next spring and fall. And then maybe the next year you could do all the mechanical and electrical systems, and you could have sort of a phased construction that way.
Okay.
So I can attempt to do that as well.
Yeah,
And
that
the
sounds more logical. That sounds very logical.
And then the next year,
Understand though that the HVAC system in that building is being held together with duct tape and chewing gum at this time.
Okay.
You're
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
issues with the heating and cooling of that building, even in the interim conditions. So just be aware that we've had an engineering analysis done of that building, and it is in severe distress. And so we've done a patch on it that, held us for one winter. Whether it holds for two more, I wouldn't know, but I would be surprised. So I think you need to look at the priorities of functionality of the building and integrity of the operations as a critical need. The ADA stuff is clearly necessary, but they're both important.
I would
And then
agree with Mr. Marco that doing all those things outweighs any revenue that we would be taking in.
Yes. But all I want to say is the next year, we maybe can cut the rental season by saying we cut off May or September or both. You know, we haven't taken any bookings for 2024, so we'll be flexible there as well. We don't necessarily have to completely get rid of the rental season, but we can do cut some months out. But it will be all options. Okay.
The most project has phases to it, and I think that we probably really need to talk about what kind of phases we're gonna have to this project to complete it, whether it's 2 years, maybe it's 3 years.
Yeah, that's correct. Oh, yeah.
I think that's a healthy attitude. And, you know, the last thing I'll say is that I think Patty makes a really wonderful point in that a lot of the systems with this building are beyond their normal lifespan. And this building is just not up to current codes with its efficiency and insulation and a number of different things. So there's a lot of work that we need to do in order to try to get this to current building and insulation and efficiency standards. And you really have to start with trying to insulate the envelope of the building first, just to be able to make it work from an energy efficiency standpoint.
And I think I can summarize council that we all really like the idea to make the band shell and the building look like cousins of our main building. That would be great. But,
Yes, I totally agree. Yes, it'd be wonderful.
all right. Any other questions before I let Jimmy go? Good. Thank you, Jimmy. It was a good, useful first meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Everyone have a great evening.
Yes,
You too.
very good
Bye.
meeting, very
Thank you.
good, very good.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So now we can go back to our regular schedule. So, Steve.
Okay, Steve, whenever you're ready, we can go into planning and development.
I don't really have anything under manager's update, just reminders from past. There's nothing new there. So, Mr. Burley, you can go ahead beyond
Yeah.
that.
Okay, we can start off with what you have to offer, Steve.
I'm sorry.
Aren't you starting with
Yeah, manager's update, but all I have is reminders for your committee. There's really
Oh,
nothing.
okay.
Yeah, there's
All
really
right.
nothing there.
Okay, then we're gonna talk to Don. Don, you ready to talk to us?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Steve, can you pull those photos up that I took, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to them. Hold on one second. I don't know if the sharing screen is Well, it's not letting me do that, Dawn. Hold on a minute. I don't know. I don't know why, if it's, oh, here we go, I think. Yeah, can you see them?
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Now I see.
I
There
can
you
see
go.
it. I can
Now-
see it.
Now I got it. Okay,
Yeah,
I can see it. Yep.
okay. This situation here is Rockwood Avenue. It's right next to the Auto Zone in the Forest Hills Plaza. And that's right off the Yost Boulevard. And as you're going up the hill, if you'll notice all those trees on the left. And I think there's another picture, Steve.
right there.
Yeah, but there's one red. Now Rockwood comes up and turns down to the left and comes back out onto 30. But all these trees, I got a call from the vegetation supervisor at Duquesne Light. They want to take them down because he said, if we don't take them down, he says they're going to be butchered something terrible. That was his remarks. So I said, well, I can't make that decision. I said, that's strictly up to council. So I'm looking for your advice. They
And
want
I
to
guess-
start, I'm sorry, they want to start about the end of April. So it doesn't give us much time.
So they're gonna cut the tree completely down. Can they prune the branches that are in where the wires, or is that impossible?
Well, yeah, they can prune them, but he said it's going to look like heck. So they want to take them down, and they will not remove the stumps. The stumps
Okay.
are going to stay. That's strictly up to the borough.
What's the feelings on this, Marcus? Anybody else feeling about this?
Well, I have a comment, Mr. Branzel. It does look like the branches are in the wires.
Yes, they are.
I could see if the larger branches were removed, as would be done in a typical pruning, it really wouldn't leave much left to the tree. I'm afraid it's a case of a tree being planted years ago, and now it's sort of outgrown its space, but I just don't like the idea of the stumps not being removed. I think if they are going to take the tree down, they should do the stump grinding as well.
Would it be possible that they could give us replacement trees for the other side of the street where the wires aren't?
The other side to the left of this picture?
That's correct. Could we plant trees on that side and get rid of the ones that are here and get something that are more size appropriate that wouldn't become issues in the future?
Yes, I guess that we would have to measure and see what the borough right of way is
Right.
through there.
That's my question.
Yeah, well, I'd have to measure that before I can give you a definite answer to see where we stand with that.
Because it would benefit that neighborhood to have trees in that area.
Correct. But you can see partially from this picture where they had butchered them once before.
Yeah,
Oh, it's a
So-
terrible job.
no. They took out the apical meristem of both of those trees. Those are not going to be healthy trees.
Yeah. And they're going to do it again this time too. That's why they want to remove the trees.
Are there cost factors to us if we have the trees removed?
Well, as far as I know, at this point, the only thing that would be a cost factor for us would be the stumps. Unless we don't remove them.
I'm with Barbara. I think we should remove the stumps.
I can run it by them and see what they say, but I asked him about that and he said no. So that was the first answer.
Well, it wouldn't
Oh.
look very good. And if they're in that, then they'd kind of be in the way.
Well, aren't we conflating two issues here? If they just trim them, we're going to end up paying to have these trees taken down in a couple years.
Right.
So I think we're better off have them take the tree down. If we have to eat the stump grinding, that's a lot cheaper than eating the cutting of all those trees in 3 years.
What did we do on the Rhine Glen Park? We had to take down trees there too, or they had to take down trees. I think
That's
we had
right.
to pay.
They replaced several, they gave us money, they gave us certificates to replace the trees. Now, they were not sufficient to cover the cost of what we wanted, but we made it up.
But did they grind down the stumps of the trees they knocked out?
I
Yeah,
don't
yes,
know.
they did.
They did, yeah, I think
So
they did.
technically, I think they should do the same thing what we did there.
Right.
Exactly the same thing, grind down the stumps and give us money for some new trees.
Well, the only thing that you're facing here, the park that we took these trees out of, there was only 3. Here you got almost 12 trees that have to be removed.
All the more reason that we replace some. And
Exactly.
I think to put them on the other side of the street where the power line is not a factor and where it can enhance the ambiance of the community by putting trees on that street, I think that would be beneficial to that neighborhood. And I don't know what our right of way is there, but if you put ornamental trees of some kind of native flowering trees, even red bud or something that's pretty hardy and pretty fast growing. It would be a benefit to that neighborhood. It would improve it.
I agree.
So I think I would like to investigate that option before, we just let them willy-nilly hack everything down. They should definitely clear out the stumps, and they should give us vouchers for replacing 12 trees. And maybe we
I
put
think even if we don't have as much space for right of way, if we were to contact the neighbors and let them know that these trees are going to be cut down, and we do have a possibility of replacing them with an ornamental tree, something that would look nice and keep the neighborhood beautiful, that would be much, much more preferable to just gutting the landscape here and hacking these trees down. So would we be able to negotiate with them to get replacement trees?
I can try. That's all I can tell you at this point. I don't know what their answers are going to be, but I did ask him about the stump grinding, and he said definitely not.
Oh, they won't grind the stumps.
Nope.
well, you
That's a
just
big-
have to
that's
tell
a
them they
big
have
stump.
to. You have to tell them they have to, that's all.
I can tell them.
How many stumps would that be, Don?
There's 10, 12 trees there.
Whoa, okay.
Start down at the very bottom and work your way back up to the bottom of close to the Ardmore. There's that many trees.
Wow.
Don, I've got two questions. One is, when do they have to start doing this? And the second is, how much does it cost to grind the stump?
The average price of those stumps for that tree, I think, are going to be somewhere around $650, $700 to grind a stump. And they do want to start at the end of April. That's what he told me.
Okay. So we're looking at around $7,000 to do this.
I would think so, yes.
What happens if we don't grind the stumps?
Then they're going to butcher the trees. Oh, you mean if we don't grind the stumps?
Yeah,
they're
we don't
just
grind the
gonna-
stumps, yeah, afterwards, yeah.
They're just going to stay there unless the borough wants to spend the money to get them taken out.
So we don't have to grind them all down at, same time.
We don't have to, no.
Well, I guess that's a decision we have to make.
Well, the problem is we don't have much time from when they're going to start. So I just want to let everyone know that.
Do you want a motion, Mr. Burley?
Yeah, I think we should.
All right, I make
As Don's telling us,
a
we don't
motion
have
that we authorize the removal of the trees, request the Duquesne Light grind the stumps, and provide vouchers for the replacement of 12 trees.
I second.
Second,
I mean, you can't have a motion today.
Yeah, you can't do that.
All right, then
We'll
I
do it next
propose
week.
we put a motion to that effect on the business meeting under planning and zoning for next Wednesday.
Yes, so that's great.
Oh.
Yes, sounds
The
good.
only caveat here is if they say no, we'll cut them down, but we're not going to grind the stumps. What's our next move? Because then we're at the end of the month.
Turn them into tables.
Now, when they say they leave the stumps, how high of a stump are they talking about? Is it like a foot off the ground, or is it like 3 or 4 feet up in the air?
Well, that depends on Duquesne Light. I don't know what they do, but I know what we do is we grind them down to the ground as close as possible, probably about a foot or
okay.
2 feet.
Yeah.
What they're going to do, I cannot tell you until I check with the gentleman that called me.
Don, are you aware, it's like a kind of side note, are you aware of that gentleman who lives in Cherry Valley who does tree art for free? We just need to tell him, are you interested in that tree? And like he needs a 2-3 feet tall stump, and then he will make something out of it.
Yeah, little artwork or
Yeah.
table
He
or
did one-
something, sure.
He did like something like that at the Bryn Mawr park playground.
Yes,
down.
he did.
Hmm.
You should consider him as well.
Right.
And Steve, do you have the contact? I can give you the contact of that guy.
I don't think I do.
Okay. But Don, that's pretty much for any tree we're knocking down, we should consider if it's a good location to make something nice out of it.
Okay,
Like at the playground, what he did there looks really nice. You must have seen that.
yeah.
I will get you the contact.
Is that it for the trees?
That's up to you, Don. Are we done with that or anything else to talk
I
about?
have another item I'd like to discuss.
Oh, sure, okay.
2 Saturdays ago, when we had that bad windstorm, the Westinghouse property down at the bottom of Avenue F, where the Atom Smasher is, a large oak tree came down, closed the road, damaged the resident's car, and we had to call Carl's Tree Service in to come in and open up the road that's down there. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I called Mr. Silversmith, who owns the property, and he was unaware of the situation. I told him about it, and I told him that the fence that the tree smashed down, it has to be fixed. So that's where we stand with that situation. Frank, are you here? Hello?
Sorry about that. Yeah. Couldn't find
Oh,
it.
okay. Arbor Day is on the 28th, this Friday, the Friday of this month, the last Friday,
Last Friday of the month, right?
right? Would you be interested in doing the proclamation again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I appreciate that.
At the rec center or
Pardon me?
at the rec center or at the park?
Right now, I'm going to discuss this tomorrow with the tree and shrub, which we have our meeting at 11 o'clock tomorrow. So I will either email you or call you and let you know where it's going to be.
Yeah, please call me.
Sure.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
Oh, thanks, Don. Well, we just have the community business report. I just can say that we're making very successful public safety on the school signs. Angelo has been following that very well, and I'm very proud of the fact that we're almost done with that project. So just wanted to comment about that, and that's the end of my report.
Okay, I can start with finance as soon as I pull it up here somewhere. Okay. I'm okay to start finance, Ms. DeMarco, if you're okay.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, first, I provided you with a cash flow report, and I want to take a minute to talk about it. This is the graph that you have attached to your agenda, and the red line here is the cash flow for the first 3 months. And you can see that we're entering March with a deficit of 103,000. That's not necessarily unusual for March, although we have had years, if you look at these other examples down here, where we came out of deficit by that time, by the end of March. So it is a little bit concerning in that it is one of the higher numbers here as far as the deficit's concerned. And I would like to point out a couple of things. I'm going to stop sharing that. That concern me, that I think you should be paying attention to whenever you are looking at the numbers. Actually, maybe I should share this screen too. This is from, wow, boy, I don't know if I transferred things over to Jimmy and that just kind of made it difficult for me here. I think this will share. Yeah, this is our general fund revenues compared with previous year as of March 31st, 2023. And the things that concern me that you should be paying attention to all year, comparing this year with last year, for example, real estate tax collection for current year is down by 140,000. Now, that can be explained possibly by just the bills getting out late or people delaying paying or something like that. That may not necessarily be an issue. But if you look at other things like, for example, the deed transfer tax, that was one thing we budgeted pretty high for based on the last few years. Last year at the end of March, we had 44,000 in revenues there. This year, we have 20,000 so far. So that's a little bit concerning. We are a little bit up on earned income tax. So that's a positive. We are a little bit down though, if you look down here at cable TV franchise, which is a substantial enough revenue. So I just want to make sure everybody pays attention to these things as you see these sheets coming from the treasurer every month to take a look at. I don't think we're in trouble, but again, I remember what happened last year, and I'm a little bit concerned that we need to start paying attention to some of these things. I don't know what's going to happen with revenues, obviously. That's hard to predict, but expenses, it's always easy to spend money. So you really need to be careful about spending. I did not put expenditure examples up, but you'll get that from the treasurer probably in a few days. And you should take a look at the expenditures for the general fund and see what looks like it's a little bit high compared to where we were last year, et cetera. I think those are the things I would mainly be cautious about as far as cash flow is concerned. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yeah, Steve, I have a question. Do you know whether we have a way to tell how many people have deferred their taxes due to assessment challenges? I know this is something we were concerned about going into this budget year, and I just don't know if we have any way to track whether deals have been charged or what kinds of things may be going on with that.
I don't know if Janet would have a way. I get a almost every month a what's it called, disposition notice form from the county, and I've been tracking that for 7 or 8 years now in a spreadsheet. And I did notice that it's been slacking way off this year so far. There's only been a few that have shown up, and the ones that have shown up so far have either the assessments remained the same or they may have gone down slightly. It's nothing too terrible, but it has maybe gone down slightly. I don't know if Janet would actually have any numbers though. She would be somebody that you probably want to talk to see where that stands, if she is able to get that. I don't know that they necessarily tell you that all the time. We do get monthly reports on schedules for assessment appeals, et cetera. But again, that's been kind of dragging because of the whole court situation on that from a number of different angles. Anybody else have anything before I go on? Okay, my second item is just a reminder. Typically in May, we begin reviewing potential capital spending for the next year. We do that early because capital items are big, and we wanted to separate it also from the regular budget planning. So we moved that up a number of years ago to start it in the spring. And I started by giving out forms to the staff during our staff meeting, which in May will be the second Wednesday of the month. Tomorrow is our staff meeting for April. And then I also give you copies of the same form. And we do it a number of different ways. Basically, things that are in the capital plan will continue unless you decide not to continue them. I'm asking people mainly to submit new items when we give that out. Again, that will happen in May. So probably the May Finance Committee meeting, I will have those forms available, and I'll probably just put them into a PDF for you and email them to you rather than give you hard copies. But both staff and you are certainly welcome to, include items for that. So I just wanted to make that a point.
I have a question. in anticipation of our discussions about Siemens, which will be coming up under Cow, I believe, instead of under Finance, I wanted to, I'm using the treasurer's report. And when we're talking about doing a capital plan, we're dealing with the Capital One budget, which is 301,964 in that account right now, right? And the reserve, Capital One, which is 108. Now, $108,614.56. Then we also have Capital Two and a Capital Two reserve. So we're talking about a budget plan for items that are in our capital plan for the 5 years that's in the budget book, right? And looking at validating or altering those that are already in the plan. Is that right?
Yeah, we're looking at, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to
Okay.
pull that up on my computer here.
Yeah, it's page,
Well, I have it on my
I
computer.
can't tell you which.
You're looking at the treasurer's report through February, correct?
Yeah, that's the last
Yeah.
one I have.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's, March will be coming shortly. And you'll
Well,
be
but
getting
what
that
I'm saying is that this is, when we're looking at what we have to assemble our commitment for the improvements, some of which are capital improvements. And I've cross-linked the capital plan items to the scope of service in the Siemens account so that we can track the money that would be in Capital One and Capital Two to those things that we've identified as that
Well,
scope.
Capital Two wouldn't apply. That's all sewer.
Okay, all right. All right, none of this is sewer stuff. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
okay. So that's only MS4 stuff.
Well,
But
it's sanitary or storm.
Patty still has a point. Whatever, there is some overlap. What things
Right,
on the Siemens proposal are currently in our capital improvement plan. So
Right.
obviously we take them out there because we don't need to pay them twice.
Yeah.
well,
there's-
no, what I'm saying is I assumed those were part of our share of the 450,000 that we have to come
No.
up with as our match. Is that correct? That's what I'm
No.
trying to validate here.
It's not.
It's not.
No.
Well, then where are we getting our 450,000 if that's not the case?
We discussed that last time already. 300,000 will be a loan out of the capital two, out of
Okay,
that.
that's what I'm talking about. So
Which will
we
be repaid, which will be repaid once we get the solar money back from the federal government. And
okay,
150 will be taken out of the capital improvement plan.
okay. All right, that's what I have too. Okay,
Okay, no other questions about that. The last item I have has to do with the insurance quote that Allison had sent out. I put a summary here and I also attached the recent emails that I think you saw from this. Now, I want to mention that usually the insurance for most of our insurances comes due in April. And because they try to get quotes as close as they can to when the due date is to get the best possible quotes, oftentimes we do not give that information. We give the information to council. We do not have council vote on it or what have you. But because there was a little bit more of an increase by several $1,000s overall, about 4,000, I guess, really overall, we wanted to make sure you were aware of it. In the past, council has not always voted on this. We've just simply gone ahead, mainly because what we use with our insurance company is essentially brokers. In this case, we're using a common trust that a lot of other municipalities are using. We moved to that a couple of years ago. So it's not unusual to find that they've gone and checked with a number of different agents, number of different companies, and try to come up with the best numbers. And that's what you have in that summary that was given out in an email. I summarized the totals on your page. I don't know if you need me to share that or not, but let me just bring it up real quick. I summarized the numbers right here for the major. The biggest one is this one here that went from 61,000 to 65,000. Part of that has to do with some of our losses. That just came out this afternoon in an email from Allison to all of you. You probably saw the loss runs. One of the biggest issues has been accidents on Ardmore that involve the traffic light poles, which are very expensive. And if we do not get the license number of the people who have hit them, especially if it's a truck, which may be able to keep on going after it's hit them, our insurance company is on the hook for it, not theirs. So for example, the one at Marion and Ardmore cost $85,000 to repair, and I don't believe we had the truck license number to be able to cover that. So those are some reasons for that going up. If you missed any of the emails, I did attach some of the text to this agenda so you can read them. Again, it's not something that requires a motion, mainly because it usually the motion we have to sign off on it before council meets in April, and we do not get the information in time for an earlier council meeting. So in the past, typically we've just signed off on it, but we've let you know where things stand. This is not a huge increase considering what we've been through with the losses, and considering the other things like public officials and police liability are only going up slightly. Does anybody have any questions?
I
about
do have
that?
a comment. I am concerned that the traffic accidents are a significant contributor to our increased costs and to our insurance liabilities. I would like to know whether there are any measures we can take, such as putting cameras for detecting speeding or accidents on the intersections, or whether we can use this again to enforce the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. I think if people were not zooming down that road at 50 miles an hour or more, would be less likely to have these kinds of accidents.
As far as I know, you cannot, the borough or a township or anybody would not be able to use cameras to enforce the speed limit.
What I'm saying is, do we have grounds to begin petitioning the DOT for further authorization or further attention to their road? It's getting to be, we've had fatalities. We've now had major costly liability damages. I think it's getting to the point where we have a grievance of some significance to take to the DOT. They do have a planning survey up, which I believe I've sent to everybody more than once for comment on their DOT planning. I think we need to put in a significant and a serious argument to them about doing something effective about lowering the speed on Ardmore in this area, because we're paying for their negligence,
We
basically.
do have McMahon doing some studies, and if they're not fully doing that whole thing with traffic, with the speed limit, we could always ask them to do it. They have the expertise. I would suggest that it might make sense to discuss this further with them.
All right.
As part of the stuff we've already engaged them with.
As you may know, we've been having these discussions in the Public Safety Committee. We're looking at different traffic calming measures. You cannot reduce the speed limit below 35 miles an hour on a state road. If it's going through a residential area, that's the lowest that they will permit. And for years it wasn't lowered to 35 miles an hour. So now it's finally lowered. We're going to be putting up the speed limit signs. We're going to be putting driver feedback signs. We'll be probably putting lines on the road for electronic, speed enforcement, but none of those things are going to stop people from speeding. So the recommendation from the insurance company to put cameras up on the poles to at least monitor if there is an accident, at least capture the person who's caused the accident, get a license plate number. That's probably the best thing that we could do.
And Steve is just telling us we don't have authority to do that.
No. You don't have authority to control speed by doing that. You can put cameras up. You just cannot control speed.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any issues here?
So how do we have to move that forward? I think we don't need a motion. We can just say, yes, we're going to do that, or?
Yes, we
I mean, we have no choice. We are lucky that we have finding insurance with our.
Yes.
Right.
All right. That's done.
Okay. That's all I have.
Okay, is there any other business? We have an appeal of fees that has been submitted to us from a person who says they are owed a refund for their fines or fees. I understand it's our policy not to do that. And the reply that Anne sent seems to be appropriate. I don't know what else we could do about this.
And it's also our policy, if someone is really majorly in trouble, we will do like a no penalty payment plan. But that lady is only in brackets, it's like $300, a little bit more. So I don't think it's a huge issue, at least, I think.
Well, if you look at page 7 and 8 on your agenda,
Yeah.
the original complaint is the first thing that's there.
Yeah.
And then Anne did some more investigating and came up with reasons why this happened.
Right.
One of them being that she had specifically sent this check. It was an electronic check through the bank for garbage. It says that right on the check that you see there. So the resident is the one who made the mistake, not Anne or the borough.
Right.
And she has investigated that further, and we cannot control Anderson Price. Their collection fees are what they are, and if you decide to forgive them, you're gonna owe them to Anderson Price from the Forest Hills budget. That's the way that works. So you're gonna pay them on behalf of her if you would say, sure, we're gonna forgive them.
It
But
was
Ann says it looks like there's only about $4.37
Right.
in actual penalty fees that she would have to pay, and that's minor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the mistake is the woman is paying electronically. She didn't specify she didn't include her stub. She didn't specify where the payments were to go because they both went to the borough, and she didn't specify which ones were for sewage and which ones were for garbage. So that is not our fault. That's her fault. And I don't see any reason that we should have to take up the fee and take that out of our budget. So I would stand by Anne's analysis and reply in that made.
All right.
That's okay with everybody? That's what we'll tell Ann.
Yep.
Okay,
Did a good job researching this out, and I think her findings were appropriate.
Good.
Okay, is there anything else for finance?
Nope.
Okay, I want to just let you know, I will be attending a webinar of the Department of Energy for an energy efficiency grant program. The webinar is on the 18th at 2:00. And the letter of intent is due on June 5th. I don't know exactly what it covers, but I think we are doing a lot of energy efficiency upgrades. If there is money in the Inflation Reduction Act, I would like to see if we're eligible to receive it. So I'll let you know whether we're going to proceed with that. I think that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Steve, could you please elevate Jonathan and Tim from
Yeah,
Siemens?
yes, I have them up first. Let me just get set up here for a second, and then I will go to them. Okay, I'm gonna promote them to panelists, I hope. Well, yes, I think they're both promoted to panelists now. Yes. So Jonathan and Tim are both active here.
All right. So basically, last time we talked about the Siemens proposal, and council had pretty much two main asks. One was to remove Westinghouse REC from the Siemens proposal because it seemed to be majorly interfering with our architect, and it seems to be like messy having two companies working on the same thing. So they did that. So that removed about 800,000. The other thing we agreed, we wanted to contribute 450,000. 300 is coming out of capital 2. It's like a loan to us because the federal government will give us back about $300,000 for the solar panels we're going to install. So Siemens did both of those, and now we're looking at we have to finance 1.2 almost $1.8 million, which is significantly less than, I think initially it was like 3.2, I believe, or something like that. And so I just want to give counsel, you saw the proposal, so I hope you had time to look at it. If there are any remaining questions, because I think now everything what we're going to do is the scope, it's pretty much part of our capital improvement plan anyway.
Right.
And so I would recommend that we're basically moving ahead with that proposal. But I want to give counsel one more time to ask questions. So hi, Jonathan, by the way.
Hi, Jonathan. Hi, Tim.
Good evening, everybody.
I have
anyone-
reviewed all of these documents and also the financing arrangement and the contract drafts. I have no problems with any of that. I have looked it over. I don't know if Mr. Corbel has reviewed it to see whether there are any issues that we need to be aware of. But as far as I can tell, it's consistent with what we've been planning, and that the elements are all in place. I think the finding that we would end up being a net zero borough for all of our buildings is very exciting. And I think it opens a number of very interesting possibilities when we achieve that. So I would recommend very strongly that we proceed to execute this contract at our most expeditious way. Mr. Corbel has put a note that he has no issues with the documents.
Anyone else has an opinion? So I think we are ready to put a motion on the next business meeting, like next week, to set that forth. But I think there's one more, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, we have to do one more decision. We have to decide if we want to do 20-year services or 3-year services. So there's like a difference in money, obviously.
Correct. Yeah, we weren't sure what the borough preferred. You could get right now it's modeled for 20. You could do 3 years. Honestly,
You have
can't
tapped
just-
for both. So
Correct.
the difference is actually quite a lot. It's like
Yes.
800,000. So I would recommend to do like what we normally do, take care of the maintenance independently. But I would like to get councils, because it would be like 2.9 versus 3.8. But I would like to get council's opinion on that. Like Patty, you are kind of next to me on my screen. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think that we would benefit from having a professional services agreement, especially our ability to implement a really carefully monitored and continuously improved maintenance system, I think would be beneficial. I know it looks like a lot of money, but over 20 years, we're making decisions here for the ongoing care and maintenance of all of our borough buildings. And you see where we get if we allow things to go into a deferred maintenance mode in the interest of saving money. I think to have a professional service firm as part of our operations would be a very big advantage to the borough on a long-term basis.
And the service, just to be, it's column G, it's about $50,000-$60,000 on average per year. So I guess, does it actually, if something breaks, includes, is it like a no questions asked replacement service?
No, they're monitoring preventive maintenance with, I believe, posted rates for, if an item did need replacement. But they're largely for preventive maintenance services.
Okay. Bob, you're next on my screen. What's your opinion?
I'm not real happy about the price, but I do think having the maintenance contract included is a really good thing. You see where we're ending up now.
We keep cutting corners. And
yeah, I actually think we should go with that.
Angelo, you're next.
Yeah, I have no objections. I agree with what Patty put forth. I think we just need to have that.
Okay.
And it'll save us in the long run.
I'm not sure if everyone has the same order. Cecil, you're next to Andrew.
I'm in favor of it. I think we've neglected so many of the borough properties that having a contract like this would ultimately save us money over the long term.
Okay. And Bill Burley, you're next. Bill. Bill, you're mute. Okay, we do Jack. You're last.
I have nothing to add to what people
Okay.
have stated already. I'm fine with this.
So Steve Corbell, would you be able to draft a motion, whatever, talk to Siemens, whatever we have to do to get that moving for Wednesday?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to take this moment to thank Jonathan and Tim for the intense amount of work that you've done over the last year and a half, getting all of these data together and doing the detailed inspections and evaluations of our buildings. I've certainly learned a lot from working with you in this space of time. And I'm looking forward to pulling this project together to completion.
Thank you, Patty, and thank you, everybody. Yeah, we're looking forward to building this and getting this going. There was one other item as well, the financing, the tax exempt lease purchase financing, how the borough wanted to handle that. Is that financing that you would like us to pull together? And if so, we would need some type of document from the borough to do that. I just wasn't sure how the borough, what the borough policies are for securing financing.
I think your rate looked competitive. I'm not sure, Steve Corbell, what do you have to do for that?
I think when we did the bid for this particular contract with Siemens, one of the reasons we selected them was their ability to coordinate the financing. I know we eliminated one or two other companies because they didn't have that capacity. And I thought, isn't there a sample contract in here for a financing agreement? I have such a big pile of paper here. I thought we had seen that.
For the financing, no, not yet.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw one.
They were waiting for some type of, for an authorization from the borough to pull that together because there's such volatility in the market. Right now, I believe we're carrying 4.75%.
Okay.
I want to say like a week ago, it was like 4.6.
Mhm.
But yeah, if there's authorization from the borough to move forward, I could ask them to lock in a rate and then pull together the agreements. But I would need that authorization from the borough first.
Steve, can we do that via committee and then have a motion after the fact on Wednesday?
Yeah, we can absolutely ratify it on Wednesday. Yep.
Okay, so basically we should have probably two motions on Wednesday. One to ratify the finance agreement and the other one to the main agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do we want to take a vote on that tonight to be ratified?
No,
on
we
Wednesday?
don't. We will do it on Wednesday.
Okay.
I mean, everyone agreed already.
Okay.
So. Thank you. So next, so thank you, Jonathan and Tim. Of course, you are welcome to stay, but up to you. And
Thank you very much.
Manager's update.
Okay, I just have two things plus a reminder. You can read the reminder. The chief asked me to note to you that the Civil Service Commission does have one vacancy, and former council member Tom Thielacker volunteered to serve. He's interested in that, and the chief agrees that he would be a good pick.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know that if you're okay with that, you can approve that on the 19th.
I'm okay with that. I like
Absolutely.
it's well suited. Anyone objecting to that? No, yeah, we can do the motion.
Okay, let me just make a note of that so I don't forget. And the second item, you had asked me to move this over here because I had given you a draft policy on use of Savvy Citizen after discussing this with Mr. Baiocchi a good bit. And we talked about it last week in Ops and Policy. And it kind of went all over the place with people talking about more than just Savvy Citizen. So you asked me to put this on tonight's committee of the whole agenda. I repeated essentially the draft policy language that I was using just for the Savvy Citizen. I'm not sure where you want to go from there. If you want to discuss the larger social media thing, I think it's a good idea. But if nothing else, I would at least like to make sure that we have some controls and over Savvy Citizen, if that's okay with everybody. Mr. Baroki
If I
may have
may.
an opinion on that too. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Lawrence, sorry.
Yes, it's okay from Washington policies. I'll say two things here. Yeah, let's move ahead with a separate one for Savvy Citizen. Savvy Citizen, I think, probably have its own policy. Social media is a much more complex critter, and I don't think it's necessary to try to combine the two of them. In looking over the policy, I will just bring up one thing to the council. I really don't have a strong feeling on this. Just give a thought to it before you approve it. In there, it mentions that you can use Savvy Citizen for borough organizations and or non-for-profit organizations. Two things, I think we should clarify non-for-profit organizations within the borough of Forest Hills, just to make sure that's clear. And then the second thing is, do you want to allow Savvy Citizen to include the possible notices from nonprofits?
Yes.
That's
We don't have that many within Forest Hills. And, there are relatively few pretty specific activities that are sponsored by our community organizations. I think it does well for us to support them. Like, when the Woodland Hills Play happens, when the daffodil sale of one of the garden clubs, when the farmers market opens, the chili cook-off, they're not a huge number of things. Announcing that the fish fry is starting, at one of the churches. I don't think there's a lot of stuff. And it's stuff that, I think helps the community feel like they're part of the community.
anybody else on that one? I just wanted to bring it up to you. I don't. have
Angelo's
feelings
talking.
about it.
You're muted, Angelo.
Okay, sorry about that. No, I just wanted to point out that I thought Jack mentioned about organizations, nonprofits that are located in Forest Hills, and that's part of the policy. Is that what you were saying, Jack?
Yeah, it just was fine. Not a big deal. It just, as I remember, I don't have it open in front of me. It
Yeah,
didn't actually specify. It
it,
just
it,
said NPOs.
no, it does say organizations that are nonprofit entities located in Forest Hills.
Okay, all right.
Or that serve Forest Hills residents, so I could remove
Right.
that part if you want. Or do you want that still on there?
Yeah, that would be my thought.
Yeah, the
I'd
only
stick to
thing
the
is,
geography.
the only thing is if there was something for Action Housing or something in there needed to be a notice that goes out similar to what we put on the website, that would probably be covered under those that serve Forest Hills residents. So, I mean, we could look at it on an as-needed basis, but
Yeah,
Okay, well,
yeah. I don't
I'll,
want to get it. I didn't want to get nitpicky on it.
I'll put the motion on under opposite policy on the 19th, and I just for reference, I'll put this entire draft attached to that agenda too, so people can see it. Anybody else have anything on that? I'm finished then with my report, Mr. President Erbliner.
Thank you. Hang on, where am I? Reminders. Solicitor's report is next.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. Most of the items that I'll be discussing will be in executive session next week. One of the items that we will be discussing is we have received 2 offers on the senior center, and council will have to consider what to do there. I know there is another showing this week, if I'm correct, to our in-house real estate agent, Barb Martin, and and there is another party out there that still may make an offer. And I've told them it would be, I gave them a deadline of last week prior to the holiday, but if somebody would happen to send one over between now and next week, I'm sure we would consider it. So that's on the agenda. I'll have drafts, I think, of both the EAC and the panhandling issue for you all to take a look at. And if I get them done in advance, I'll email them earlier. What else was there that I wanted to mention? think
You
that's,
maybe want to explain the engineering transition and your conflict of interest? No, it's not that they know.
yeah, sure. I can talk about that. So, I think most of you know, but my office and me in particular, I do provide legal advice to the engineering firm that you all selected, but only on HR and employment matters. Nothing related to their underlying business or contracts that we're negotiating with them. So under the rules of professional conduct, that's considered a conflict, but it's waivable because I'm not representing you in issues that are, you're in direct conflict, if you will. So I submitted a letter to Marcus and to the borough and to the engineering company to waive the conflict, so I could help work out the language in some of the agreements that we will need to execute when we move to engage them next week. So I got Marcus's earlier today, and I received Lennon Smith's last night. So we should be good. And that kind of dovetails into the transition. Marcus and I had a meeting with Kevin Brett, who is the point of contact that Lennon Smith will be sending to borough meetings. He's one of the managing principals there. And it sounds like it's going to be a fairly smooth process. They've been through this many times before. And I think we're going to ask Mr. Gillen's firm to put together a list of projects and then meet with Lennon Smith, and we'll try to make the transition as smooth as possible. And there'll be input from council, I think, on potentially on some close calls, etc. But otherwise, go ahead, Marcus.
We will have a motion on Wednesday to pretty much officially hire them starting next
We
week.
will, yes.
And I think we have some sewer projects which are very far advanced. So that's pretty much what we asked in that letter. Tell us what projects you're working on. And like paving, for example, is a good example because we haven't started really paving in earnest yet. So that we can easily transfer over to the new engineers. But sewage projects which are ongoing or in the middle of it, those Glenn will keep going. But paving, anything new, we will right away transition to the new company. So any questions on that? All right.
And the last thing I'll mention is that, and this is for Mr. Morris, to just to ensure that there is a motion on the agenda for the open burning ordinance update. And we will go from there. Oh, and lastly, we did, and Steve sent this letter to you all. We did send that proposed ordinance about the rezoning on Ardmore from the equitable owner of that parcel to the county for review, just to keep the ball moving. Doesn't mean we can't change anything, etc. But it's another issue that we can talk about on Wednesday if you all have any questions and get my advice. So other than that, I don't have anything else unless someone has a question.
All right. Next, we have that, I think that's new, like those advisory committees. Who attended the last EAC committee? I think, Patty, did you do it? Or
No, I've not been allowed to go there. They assigned Angelo.
Oh, sorry about that. Angelo, do you have anything to report on EAC? You're muted.
Again, sorry about that. Nothing other than they do have the upcoming Earth Day celebration that they're working on. And there have been some questions about the membership. I told them that we were working on updating the ordinance that authorized the EAC, and that we would be getting back with them shortly. That's pretty much it, other than we need to get the waiver approved by next week so that we can make sure they have that for Earth Day.
All right. Thank you.
Is the Public Works people prepared to help them out with supplies and picking up trash?
Jimmy was picking up some of the supplies, and he already identified
Okay.
what we need to do with the trash. Yes, thank you.
Next, tree and shrub. Bob, I believe that's you. Huh?
Yes, it is. We're having our meeting tomorrow where
Okay.
we'll be discussing Arbor Day.
Okay. And then rec board.
Wait, Steve has his hand up.
Okay.
I just want to make sure. So this is where you want these two items in the future on committee of the whole.
Probably we want all of them, like rec board. Bob, do you want rec board from there or?
Oh, I thought you wanted rec board on the borough property since Walt
We
would
keep
be
it there?
attending that.
Okay, yeah, it's a good point. We keep it there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think only those two we remove.
So these two
Planning-
should be topics on committee of the whole. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
So
you.
we just keep it like what we just did today. And that's good. Okay, next, public works. I believe we had Cecil, Angelo, and Bob meeting Jimmy Seelacker and doing like a run through the streets with paving. And they have a new proposal, which is slightly different than the one which was on the agenda last week. Who wants to talk about it?
I can talk about it if no one else wants to. The new proposal would be that what we do is to only do a portion of Fillmore and use the savings from that to fully pave the service road. That was the consensus of those who attended that meeting and went and saw the streets and had informal presentations from Jimmy and the company that's doing the paving.
Okay.
If anyone wants to add anything to that, please, this is your time.
I'd like to say something, Mr. Watkins. I would
Certainly.
just like, thank you. I would just like to point out that this is only half of Service Road 3 from Avenue F to Avenue L. There's a second portion from Avenue L to K that we would like to have paved next year. It just was a little confusing saying we're doing the whole road, when in fact, it's not the entire road, it's half of it.
Okay.
So I will have a
Angelo,
motion to approve this on the 19th,
yes.
revised version. Okay.
Yes, please.
Then we have that Forest Hills Road drainage project. Do you want to talk about that? You had a walkthrough there too.
I don't know, Barb, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think Cecil has audio issues. Yeah, Angela, please.
Oh, okay. So we did have a look at the road. There was a lot of confusion, as you recall. I had some questions about the road and about whether we were going to maintain the brick or not. We were fortunate while we were out there looking at it. One of the residents showed up, and we had a brief discussion with the resident as to what happens with their property and how the flooding occurs and so forth and so on. The proposal, actually, Steve has that up there. They're proposing to put curbing asphalt about 5 feet on either side of the road, maintaining the brick in between. The storm grates will be changed. They will be flat on the surface. That'll help to get the water, collected quickly. Right now, the water's practically, non-existent going into those old storm drains. They will be adding some more handicap curbing. Again, the explanation previously was not clear enough. They aren't replacing, they aren't adding handicap curbing to people's driveways. There happens to be one person who already has a handicap curb. They're going to maintain that curb, and then they're going to put the handicap curbing as required on the two ends of the street, at the corners of the road. So I think overall, it's an excellent plan. The only thing that I would recommend is that we provide some information to to those residents that are on the street, send them a letter, letting them know what the plans are, sending them a diagram depicting what the final look of the property, their property and the road will look like, and then offer them an opportunity to provide any comments if they have any. But I think we owe that to the residents to do that.
Yeah. I think it's an excellent idea. So can we do that, Steve?
I assume you'd want the engineer to send a letter like that would explain what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will ask Laura. Now, will we also vote on this then on the 19th to approve this for El Grande?
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
Excuse me, but there's one other thing. I think it's important for the residents who live at that intersection to understand that when we have severe downfalls, that this will help, but it's not going to solve the problem. You're still going to get a lot of water in one of the yards, and you may get water in one of the basements of the house that's across the street. I believe it was the engineer or Jimmy who said that occasionally they've sent people to pump water out of the basement. So this, I think with climate change, it's a real possibility that we could get greater downfalls of rain, and that we're still going to have a flooding problem. So I don't know how we do that, if we just address the houses that are going to be impacted, or if we include that with a letter that goes to everyone. But I think if we just address those houses that for now are going to be impacted, that will it'll head off a lot of problems, because we do this and then they're going to complain that, hey, I still got water in my yard.
I think we should just have it on a letter for everyone on that block. We're making it better, but it's not a 100-year fix.
Mr. Lawrence,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I have a concern here. I don't think it's appropriate for us to be warning. I mean, think about what we'd be sending out. Hey, by the way, your basement may still get flooded. Your street may still get flooded. I don't think that's an appropriate thing for the borough to be doing. We're actively fixing the street, and that's as far as this discussion should go. And I'm not sure we should really be talking too much about speculating what could happen to residents' properties. Anybody else want to follow up on that one?
Makes sense to me. Steve Corbett, do you have an opinion? It sounds like, yeah, you don't want to give a warranty.
No, Jack stole my thunder. I was going to say the same thing.
Perfect. Okay, so we write a letter.
On the other hand, I do think it's important for people to understand that we're looking at changing circumstances. And we do have 40% of our town subject to landslide and flooding in just from the geology of where we are. It's important for people to understand the vulnerability in that area, and that we need to be doing things specifically to help the situation in more direct ways.
I would just like to add one other thing to that, is that there were a lot of nuances that we discussed that had to do with what this remediation of the street would do and not do. So I think it's a little more complicated. So I agree with Mr. Lawrence, Mr. Corbel, that those are not things that we could speculate on.
So how about we have Steve Corbel and Dave from Glen Engineering draft a letter together? Like, Dave should give a first whack of it, and then Steve can look at it.
Works for me.
All right, we do that.
It would actually be Laura, because Dave is retired and I believe he's up in Canada right now.
I thought he was not going to retire, but okay.
Yeah.
That was the last item I have on the agenda. Anything else?
I'd like to just make a mention that I had drafted a policy on the police take-home vehicles, and I wasn't sure whether Mr. Erblinger wanted to have that reviewed by everyone, or send
We
it.
can probably do it public safety, maybe.
We can, yes.
It seems like common sense, like, you don't use it don't let your kids drive the police car, don't take it
Yeah.
don't for private, only for going back and forth.
I would like Mr. Corbel to take a look at that if that's okay.
Happy to.
Thank you.
And then one change maybe we didn't discuss, it's a policy, if we decide for some reason some other officer needs to take that car home for what special purpose, we can do that too. At the discretion of the chief. If he wants to delegate the car to someone else while he's on vacation or whatever, that's open, the policy is open for that. Okay.
I have one other thing. The Pennsylvania Municipal League District meeting is on the 20th in our town. It would be wonderful if any other council members were able to attend, even for part of the time. It will be from 12 until 1:30 in our community in the Westinghouse Lodge. And then there will be doing a tour in advance at 10 o'clock. And Mr. Morris, I understand you're able to do that if it's at 10 o'clock, but not at 2, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be doing a presentation about our borough building and our climate action plan. I have sent the slideshow that I am planning to give to the Pennsylvania Solar Association. I sent it around for everyone's review. I didn't receive any comments, so I have sent that on to them. It will be displayed on the 4th of May. And again, that's something that, we have 2 free tickets. I absolutely will be going. I'd like one other person, if you would like to come with me on the 4th of May in the evening. So.
Where is that event again? What city? Or,
That one is at the Energy Innovation Center on the 4th of May.
but where? Is it in Pittsburgh or?
Yeah, the Energy Innovation Center is in Pittsburgh, downtown.
Just want to make sure. Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Patty.
Yep. And I will be at ALOM this weekend, leaving on Thursday evening and coming back on Sunday afternoon. So.
So anything else new or missing? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Night.
Okay, good night. Next Wednesday live meeting.